A basketball hero around here is treated like a god. I mean, how can you ever find out what he could really do? I don't want this to be the high point of his life. I've seen them, the real sad ones. They sit around the rest of their lives talking about the glory days when they were 17 years old.
You know, most people would kill to be treated like a god just for a few moments.
Remember, don't get stuck with another sticker company. Stick with StickerYeti.com for all of your sticker needs and much, much more. Sticker Yeti is the place for all of your needs when it comes to stickers. Check them out today.
Welcome to the Keeping the Nostalgia Alive show. I am your host, Billy Powell. This is episode number 199. We're closing in on that number 200 mark. You can listen to all of our shows at Keeping the Nostalgia Alive. That's all one word, keepingthenostalgiaalive.podbean.com. And you can download shows at your convenience to listen. We have Kent Benson, Gene Cady, you name it, anything that is associated with the game of basketball in the state of Indiana, we have it on our program. So once again, that's keepingthenostalgiaalive.podbean.com. You can also check out our YouTube channel. Just go up to the search bar on YouTube and type in the Keeping the Nostalgia Alive show and subscribe to our shows, because our shows are also on our YouTube channel. And with that being said, today, normally I have to do quite a bit of research for each guest that I have on the program. Today's was very easy because I already know the person that's coming on the program. I think it's been about 34 or 35 years since I've seen him, but we have on Coach Tom Riensche. Coach Riensche, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule during this lockdown to help keep the nostalgia alive and talk about Indiana high school basketball and baseball.
Oh, you're welcome, Billy. Glad to be on.
You know, I was, when I was in high school, my freshman year in high school, played soccer for you, and of course you got me associated with the basketball program, and of course you went to Fort Wayne Concordia, and if I'm not mistaken, you were a three-sport athlete. Tell us a little bit about growing up, Riensche, and tell us a little bit about your mom and dad, and also where you did go to high school.
Okay, yeah, I was born in Indianapolis and went to grade school on the south side of Indianapolis at Calvary Lutheran grade school, which was a couple blocks from Southport High School. And right before I started high school, my dad's job moved to Fort Wayne. It was a phone company job. And so we moved to Fort Wayne about 2 months before I started high school. And I attended Fort Wayne Concordia Lutheran High School and went all 4 years there. And really enjoyed it. It was a great school. I played, lettered in three sports there, cross country and basketball and baseball. And we had some pretty good teams up there in Fort Wayne. My senior year, we went to the state finals, the Final Four they called it back then, before class. They had one class. And we went to the Final Four in the state high school baseball tournament. And that was quite a thrill to play at the old Victory Field, Bush Stadium out on West 16th Street here in Indianapolis. That's before the Indians, moved downtown where they're at now. But it was really a nice experience going to Concordia. I was glad I got to go all 4 years.
Did your dad play any athletics? Because he went to Tech High School, correct?
Yes, he did. He was a very good basketball player. Unfortunately, he went to Tech High School in 1938. They had 7,000 students at Tech High School, which was one of the largest high schools in the nation. And his freshman year, he tried out for basketball, and he always told me this story. He said there were like 400 kids that tried out, and they cut about 200 the first night. And he was kind of like me. He was kind of a late bloomer. He was pretty small when he was a freshman, and so he didn't make the team. But he played a lot of basketball leagues around town. A lot of basketball fans remember the old Dearborn Hotel gym on East Michigan Street. A lot of famous players played there, and he played on a team called the Indianapolis Flashes, and he got to be pretty well known around town. And his senior year, the coach at Tech called him in and said, "Hey, Bob, sorry it never worked out for you here at Tech, but I've got to have a connection there with a coach at Franklin College. And would you like to go there and play some basketball? So Dad thought about it, and he was working at the time. And then he graduated from Tech, and then he worked a little while. And then World War II came, and he was drafted into the Army and served 22 months overseas. And when he came back, he started working at the phone company and just never really played, college basketball or anything, or went to college. But he was really a good ball player in his day.
Both your father and mother would come to as many games as possible that I remember. And I'm assuming you've lost both of them, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, Dad, Mom passed away. She was 91, and then Dad passed away. He was 93. So they lived a good, long life. But you're right. They never missed a game ever since I was in grade school, I don't think. They were always there. And Dad was actually my Little League coach and basketball coach in grade school. And so they were a big part of my life growing up in sports.
If you would have stayed in Indianapolis, would you have gone to Manual?
Well, I was born in the Fountain Square area on Prospect Street, and when I was about 3 years old, we moved down to around Southport, so I would have attended Southport. My sister actually went 3 years to Southport, and then she went her senior year up at Concordia in Fort Wayne.
What sport did you like most going through high school? Was it? I mean, I'm going to assume that you ran just to kind of keep yourself in shape, but maybe cross country was one of your favorite. But was baseball your favorite sport going through high school?
Well, it kind of varied. You're right. I ran cross country. At the time at Concordia, you had to run cross country or play football to go out for basketball. So it was a good way to stay in shape. And I actually played, you'll laugh out of this, Billy. I actually played football my freshman year. I was 5'7", 110 pounds. And I was on the line, believe it or not. So my football career didn't go very far. In my sophomore year, I started running cross country. And that, developed cardiovascular, strength and body strength. And so then I, went into basketball and baseball from there. But like I say, we had some, pretty good teams at Concordia the years that I was there. But your question, I kind of, when basketball was going on, I was all in basketball. That's all I could think about. And as soon as that season ended, I was ready for baseball. So I kind of liked them both about the same, just depending on what season it's going into.
And what, in growing up there in Fort Wayne, did you have a favorite baseball team that you would watch or listen to on the radio or watch on the TV? Well, I said listen to on the radio. Man, I just made you really, really old, didn't I? No, did you? What was some of your favorite baseball teams?
Well, when I was a kid, my dad would take me down to the old Crosley Field, Cincinnati Reds, and that was kind of my first team that I fell in love with and followed the Reds, and also the Chicago White Sox. We'd go up to Chicago and go to the White Sox games. So those were the two teams that I kind of grew up with and followed. Now I'm a big Yankees fan, so
well, you kind of went through phases though a little bit, right? You were a Dodgers fan for a little while too, right?
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, I have several teams I still follow, and I kind of became a Cubs fan when they started on a roll there, and so I just didn't enjoy the game, watching it, and I'm hoping they get started here. It sounds like they're going to maybe get started.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting though with a 50 or 60 game schedule. They're definitely going to have an asterisk on it,
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it'll be a lot different.
It was totally different back when you were a youngster in high school. But at what point did you start thinking about your college choice, and we all know that you went to Ball State University, but were there other places that you could have possibly gone and played either baseball or basketball?
Well, my senior year, I had a couple visits for basketball to Toledo, University of Toledo, and Bowling Green. And I went there and talked to the coaches, and then I decided, well, I'll go to Ball State. So, I want to stay in the state of Indiana. And so I enrolled at Ball State. I actually started a little late. I worked for 6 months before I started college. I was kind of young for my age. I was only 16 years old when I was a senior in high school, and didn't turn 17 until November of my senior year. So I thought, well, I would have loved to have another year in high school, but it didn't work out that way because I started school early. And so I went to Ball State, and at the time in the NCAA, freshmen could not play varsity sports. So they had a freshman team, and since I started later, I had to wait a while. So the picture you sent me of the Ball State freshman team,
mm-hmm.
that was quite a good team. But I talked to coach. The coach was Carl Medich. Used to be coach at Tech. He was the freshman coach at Ball State. And I told him, well, I just got here at the time. Ball State was on a quarter system, and I started in the spring quarter. So, I talked to him about trying to walk on. I didn't have a scholarship. He goes, yeah, you can work out with us, and you can be like the student manager. So I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. It was kind of cool, though. I got to practice every night with the team, just like I was on the team. And it was really cool to get that experience. But I couldn't actually play because I, started late, so I had to wait a while. And that kind of put me behind because, if you're not on scholarship, you know how it is in college. It's kind of hard to walk on and stick. But my freshman year, I played on the freshman baseball team at Ball State. And then the following year is when I, tried to walk on with the basketball team, but it didn't work out. So I just, played some intramural sports and things like that. And during the summer, I played some semi-pro baseball in Indianapolis and Fort Wayne and Columbus, Ohio. So I got to, play against some pretty good players in those leagues.
Did you pitch?
Again, yes, I was a pitcher and a first baseman in high school and college. And my senior year, like I say, we went to the state finals at Concordia. I played first base. We had two pretty good pitchers. We had a left-hander and a right-hander. And the left-hander started the game, and we were known for defense all the season. And we kind of fell apart in the final game, the state finals against Bloomington. At that time, Bloomington just had one high school, which is now Bloomington South. And that's who we played. And we got beat by them. And then Lafayette Jeff beat South Spencer. And then Lafayette Jeff beat Bloomington for the 1969 state championship.
What was Busch Stadium like at that time?
Oh, it was really cool. It was sort of like, remember the movie The Natural?
Oh, yes.
It's like playing there. It was really cool. They had the ivy on the wall, sort of like Wrigley Field. And at the time, they were the Indianapolis Indians. They had a teepee out in center field in a fence. And it was really a neat setting out there at the old ballpark. But I remembered I was playing first base, and they had just painted the seats. And the sun was glaring off of those seats. I could hardly see on first base from the glare. But but it was a lot of fun to play there. And that was quite an accomplishment for a school of 900 kids to go all the way to the state finals in baseball.
Give everybody a little bit of an idea of what freshman basketball was like in college. It
was very competitive. The team that when I was a freshman with a very good team, and as a matter of fact, it was kind of a well-known team around the nation. The best player, you've probably heard of Larry Bollington.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the leading all-time scorers in Ball State history. He was on the team as well as some other players, and it was really a good team. I remember the first game, I think we played Notre Dame. And beat Notre Dame. It was at Notre Dame. And I think we only lost 1 or 2 games that year. I remember losing to Dayton at Dayton Arena. But that was one of the few games that we lost that year. And so it was really a fun experience.
Was Adrian was Adrian Dantley on that Notre Dame squad?
No. Let's see. That was more near the time. I don't know if you remember the name John Shoemate.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he was around that time. Yeah. But I think that was right when they first opened the Notre Dame arena where they're at now, and we got to play there, which was quite an experience.
Did you was it kind of hard that since you started a little bit late, you still played baseball, you still played basketball, you still did intramural sports? Did you have to make a decision on what you were going to do for your career? Was it kind of hard to give up those 2 sports?
Yeah, it was. I, even after I graduated, I still played, like leagues, basketball, baseball into my 30s. So it was kind of hard to give it up as it is for everybody that plays sports. But like I say, while I was at Ball State, I went from I was 6'3" when I was a senior in high school. I went from 5'7" to 6'3", and then when I went to Ball State, I grew 3 more inches. So when I was a senior at Ball State, I was 6'6", about 210 pounds. So I lifted weights there and all that, got stronger, and so I continued playing, and then I started focusing more on getting my degree from Ball State, which I did in physical education, and I had another major in social work. And then I concentrated on, getting a teaching position to further my career in that area.
And how hard was that to do? Was that something you were doing before you graduated from college? How hard was it to get a teaching position?
Back then, it was actually pretty hard. I was very fortunate. I was hired in 1974, like a month, I think it was a month before school started. Indianapolis Public Schools hired me at Riverside, school number 44 on the west side of Indianapolis. And that's where I started my teaching and coaching career. And I coached, at that time they didn't have baseball it was called a junior high back then. They actually had softball, so I coached softball and basketball and track and field. And also at that time, I became an assistant baseball coach at Crispus Attucks High School. I did that for about 6 years. So that's kind of where I began my coaching career as well as teaching.
How hard was it to be the assistant coach at Crispus Attucks? I mean, I know with the basketball history that Attucks had, after those big years with the Big O and stuff like that, they were kind of treated like the stepchild of IPS high schools. Would you agree?
Yes, they were. They IPS was going through a lot of changes at that time. Closing schools, laying off teachers. So it was kind of a difficult time. Several schools kind of got put aside and forgotten for a while, but Attucks actually closed for a while and then came back as a middle school and then became a high school again. So I was glad to see that. And they've had a lot of success there at Attucks the last several years.
Yes, under Coach Hawkins. He's a great young coach.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. When I was there, I actually coached, Bill Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
His son played baseball at Addicts. Billy Garrett Jr., so I coached him in high school. So I had some very good athletes there. And it was close to where I taught. I taught at School 44, which was just 2 minutes from Addicts. So I'd just leave school and drive across the street almost, and then coach there at Addicts.
Now, if I'm not...
And then
go ahead.
I was going to say, after, I think it was 1981, that's when I left and enrolled or started teaching and coaching at Broad Ripple.
And was Coach Smith originally at 44 also?
Yes, that's where I actually met Coach Smith. He was the basketball coach and PE teacher there at School 44. He taught history also. And that's where I met him. He'd come to the games and watch, and then one day he called me aside and said, "Hey, Coach, I like the way you're coaching. How would you like to help coach at Broad Ripple with me?" So I said, "Yeah, great." So that's when I started. Actually, it was 1978. I started coaching at Broad Ripple, and I was still teaching at 44. So I, did a lot of driving at that time. I'd go from 44 to Addicts to Broad Ripple, and so I did that for a couple of years, and then teaching opening. Rodney Clark, Coach Clark. I know you know Coach Clark.
Yes.
He left Broad Ripple and went to Warren Central. So that's when I took his spot at Broad Ripple in teaching PE. And then that's where I started my coaching career there at Broad Ripple with Coach Smith.
When you arrived at Broad Ripple, did you foresee, because the players that were on your state championship team, did you foresee how good that team was going to be in '78, or the players were going to evolve to be?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, they. You could tell right then that was a special team, and just from the way they played, worked together, their work ethic, they were just destined for greatness. And it turned out that we were when we won the state championship in 1980.
What was it like to coach with Coach Smith, especially those first couple of years, and of course the state championship year?
It was an awesome experience. Like I say, I owe a lot to Coach Smith because he gave me my start in coaching in high school, and he was just an awesome individual, a great man. He was a great coach, not only with X's and O's, but with things like game preparation, game situations, motivation of players, coaching strategies. He just had it all. Coach Smith, he did demand 100% from his players, assistant coaches, all the way down to student managers, as you well know. And anyone else associated with the program, you better be on your game, your A game, or he would let you know about it. I remember my first year there. We're in the old gym there at Broad Ripple, and we're having tryouts. And that time I was the freshman coach. So I had my freshman team sitting on the top bleachers watching varsity tryouts. And he said, "Okay, Coach, tell your kids, go down in the locker room." I said, "Okay, fellas, go on down." He goes, "You better get some gravel in your voice, Tom." And I was kind of soft-spoken at the time. And so that right there, I thought, man, I better get myself together and be a little more forceful. So that, that really helped me kind of come out of my shell and be more vocal and leadership skills and all that type thing. I owe to Coach Smith. But he, he was, Coach Smith was an excellent athlete himself in high school and college at Anderson College, Anderson University now, Wood High School. He had many years of success as a coach at Broad Ripple. He's a state championship coach, 1980. He has the NBA experience with the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks, helping Mike Woodson coach. He's coached 5 Indiana All-Stars. His record and experience definitely qualifies him to be a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. And I know you also agree with that totally.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The numbers when you make comparisons, it's like you can do with a lot of baseball players that are in the Hall of Fame and other ones that need to be in it. There's just no doubt. And also, too, I was just thinking the other day, he rolled this one out to me. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was drafted by the Houston Oilers.
Yes, I believe you're right. Yeah, I was looking into that, yes.
And I know
Go ahead.
I know we all kind of dig deep when we do stuff, but I remember, too, that he was the first coach to win a state championship team, if I'm not mistaken, with an integrated high school.
I believe you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe you're right. Well, he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm hoping we can make that happen.
Was Coach Ring there, the AD, when you arrived also in 78?
Yes, he was. He was there when I arrived. Mr. Glenn, Donald Glenn, was the principal, I remember, when I actually started teaching there. But yes, Mr. Ring, and he was the athletic director there.
I could have kicked myself. For not getting more out of him. But he played for John Wooden. He played for Branch McCracken. He played baseball and was it is in the Indiana University Athletic Hall of Fame, whatever you call it. He played for the Indianapolis Indians for just a bit, but he really never cracked out of his shell and talked about it. I wish I would have got more out of him.
I know. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I used to talk with him quite a bit, and he would mention some of that stuff, but he would never elaborate on his career, in which he had quite a career. He was always kind of soft-spoken, and but I was looking. The Indianapolis Star ran I don't know if you saw it or not, but they were listing like 64 of the top high school teams of all time, and they listed by school like 10 players from all years. And they had one day they had South Bend Central, where he went to high school, and he was listed as one of the top players in that school's history. So he was actually a very good basketball player. Baseball, I think baseball was his best sport.
His wife actually, I think it was 2 weeks ago, passed away. So
I saw that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that in the paper.
But he was very quiet. But what a wealth of knowledge! I mean, I remember sitting in the athletic office, and I was really, you and of course Coach Smith and of course Mr. Ring really kind of gave me this passion for the game, and I was like since I didn't play, I was like a sponge, so I took everything in, and I remember sitting in his athletic office, and this guy coming in going, is Gene here? I said, no, he stepped out. Can I help you? Oh, I'm Rick Mont from Imro Sporting Goods. I needed to drop this off to him, and but now that you look back on it, man, I should have just taken more. I'm glad that I took in what I took in, but that was just a revolving door of greatness there at Broderville.
Oh, exactly. Right. Yeah, that's a lot of history there. Take us
through the state championship year. What did you kind of feel at the beginning that you guys could go far? Was there unfinished business from the previous year? Take us through that season and what your thought process was, and and maybe a little bit of a long answer, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that season.
Yeah, we started out the year with high hopes. Of course, we knew we had a good team, and we knew we could go far. And that's one thing with Coach Smith. Every year, he said, expect to win the state championship. We actually, every year, expected to win the state. he always said, if you're not here to win state, you shouldn't be out here on the floor. And the kids, developed that attitude, like, well, we're not going to lose a game, we're going to win state. And so that year, we actually we only lost 2 games. We were 29-2. We won the city championship. And the next game, we played Indianapolis, Washington, who in their own right was an awesome team. They had John Sherman Williams, Darren Fitzgerald, Ricky Johnson. I always said if we didn't win the state in 1980, Washington High School would have won it. That's how good they were. And but we played them over at Washington. And I think it was Ricky Johnson hit a half-court shot at the buzzer to beat us. So that was our first loss of the season. Then we got on a roll and went all the way to the last game of the year. We played South Bend Clay, and I think they were ranked like 6th in the state that year. And I remember being at Broad Ripple, looking out the windows at school, and it's like a blizzard. I thought, oh my gosh, we have to take the bus all the way to South Bend. So we left Broad Ripple in this blizzard snowstorm, drove all the way to South Bend. We got there kind of late, and obviously, I remember walking into the gym, and South Bend Clay was actually out there warming up on the floor, the JV team. And so we hurried and got dressed. And we actually gave them a pretty good game. I think we lost by 6 points or something like that. But so that was our second loss. And then we came back, and the last game of the year was always against Gary Roosevelt. Who was always tough. And we beat Gary Roosevelt. And then from then on, sectional, Hinkle Fieldhouse was like our home floor. Back then, we played the sectional at Hinkle, the regional, the semi-state, and then, of course, the state championship was at Market Square Arena downtown. And so we just got on a roll and went all the way, won the state championship. And, of course, Stacy Tran hit the 57-foot shot at the buzzer to beat Marion in the afternoon game. That was awesome. And actually, I was listening to Dan Dockett's show the other day on the radio, and he was talking about the best Final Fours in Indiana high school basketball state history. And, of course, he said 1980 was the most exciting Final Four ever. And I have to agree, because both afternoon games were won with 0-0 on the clock. The first game, and Dan Dockage played for Gary Andrean, and they were playing New Albany. And I believe New Albany was up by 1 point. And a Gary Andrean player got fouled at the buzzer on a shot. So he had 2 shots. So he misses the first one. And if he hits one, it goes to overtime. If he hits 2, they win the game. Well, he missed both shots, and New Albany ended up winning by 1 point. And then the second game, here comes, Broad Ripple and Marion, and Stacy hits that 57-foot shot with 0-0 on the clock to win the game. And then, of course, the night game, we beat New Albany. I think it was by 9 points, I believe. So that, to me, was the best state finals ever in finals in 1980. And a lot of people will agree with that.
What was it like in the huddle before, the last possession of the game? And do you still remember it today? What did you think it was going to go in? Did you think, we're going to go to overtime? Did you think, what was your thought process as a coach and being on the bench and watching that whole thing happen? Did it go by so fast you don't remember?
Well, I do remember. I remember, we set up a couple plays where one involved a long pass down the court to try to get a shot. And then we, also had Stacy there at the free throw line. And I remember Coach Smith said, if you can't get it down the floor, get it in to Stacy. So the original plan, they were Marion covered us on the pass. So we threw it into Stacy, and he didn't take a dribble. He just turned and shot the ball. You know how Stacy was very strong, a football player too. And he shot the ball, and it banked in at the last second shot. There was 1 second on the clock, and we couldn't believe it because Marion tied the game, and then they actually, on tape you can see it, they actually called timeout. So that gave us 1 second, which, the odds of that happening are pretty low, but are pretty high, I should say, of not scoring and going. So we thought, if we go into overtime, we go into overtime. But we were glad we didn't because we had 4 starters. I think it was 4 starters with 4 fouls going into the fourth quarter. So we were fortunate that we didn't have to play another overtime period. But after that, the team was really sky high. They couldn't wait till that final game at night.
How'd you guys calm them down for that?
Well, we went back to Broad Ripple, which we always did. Hinkle Fieldhouse was just 5-10 minutes away from Broad Ripple. So during that time, during the tournament, we'd always go back to Broad Ripple. And you remember the old wrestling room? They're down the hall from Gene Ring's office. Yeah. Okay, we'd bed them down in there, and I'd get them food ordered, and then they'd sleep and rest. And Coach Clark and I'd go in the gym and play horse. We must have played 200 games of horse. He was good. He was hard to beat. He could shoot, Coach Clark. So then we'd, get them ready to go, and they'd be all rested. And so we did the same after the afternoon game in the state finals at Market Square Arena. So, then we got them downtown, got them ready, talked to them before the game, and you could just see it in their eyes. They were pumped up. They were ready to go. And, of course, New Albany was undefeated. Mm-hmm. I believe they were like 29-0. Mm-hmm. They hadn't lost a game all year. They had a guard, Richie Johnson, who was 6'9". I remember I have a picture of King Duke, who was, 5'5" or 5'6", guarding Johnson, who was 6'9". And so they had their starting lineup was 6'9", 6'8", 6'8", 6'5", and 6'3", something like that. So they were definitely a tough team. But we played an awesome game that night and ended up winning the state championship. So
as a coach, though, how long did that high last? You got the newspaper the next morning. We're all plastered in it, and what? Oh
yeah. We when we left Market Square Arena, the big trophy. I actually carried that trophy to the bus, and then on the way back, we got near Broad Ripple, and came down the side street, Compton Street along Broad Ripple there. And there were fans, students lined up all the way down Compton Street, jumping around and banging on the bus and yelling, and gave us a very nice reception in the gym when we got back. But we were pretty pumped up for quite a while after that.
How does that translate to? You guys have the schools won a state championship. Were you looking for opportunities? Or were opportunities looking for you, or were you happy where you were at the Broad Ripple basketball program at that time?
Yes, I was. Actually, in the 80s, basketball in IPS was very strong. You had Washington Tech, Shortridge at the time, Manual. You had some really good teams. And I was going to tell you that it was the year that we won the state, we played Washington in the regional. And that, like I say, the winner of that game, I thought was going to win the state championship. And we won. It was a close game, but we kind of had years ago, they used to dress down in the basement of Hinkle Fieldhouse. There was remember the ramp you run all the way down to the locker rooms?
Right.
Well, we always wanted to be the second team up. We didn't want to go up first. So, so Washington's down there, and we're down there in different locker rooms, but we're waiting on the other one to go up. And so finally, one of the directors came down and said, "Hey," or I think it was Gene Rainey, said, "Come on, Coach Smith, you got to get up here. You got to." I remember him saying, "No, we're not going until Washington goes up." So finally, they went on up, and then we went up after them. And but we had Mike Woodson sitting on our bench, I remember, and they had Steve Downing sitting on their bench. So it was really cool. I mean, like I say, it was a good game. We beat them and then went all the way from there. But they were a very good team. But there were some really good teams in IPS at that time.
Poor Basil Sofredo couldn't get a break, could he?
Oh, I know. He had some bad luck there, yes.
And, also Fred Belzer of Manual couldn't get a break.
I know it. He had some really good teams.
Yeah.
I remember he had a kid named Byron Frierson.
Yeah.
He was an all-state football player, too. He was like 6'5", 260, 70. He was a big guy. And I helped Coach Smith coach the Indiana All-Stars in 1980. And he was put on the team as an alternate. And but he was a good basketball player, too. But he went on in football in college. But Manual had a very good team that year. I remember playing them at Manual. They were like people. It was packed, sold out. And I think the game was, they had some footage on TV, and it was a good game. We ended up winning. But Belzer had some good teams at Manual.
How does it feel knowing that you were a part of, not really, but we were a part of the making of the movie Hoosiers?
That was really cool. That's funny you bring that up. I was just watching Hoosiers. They had it on TV the other night, and it brought back a lot of memories because we were actually playing, I think it was Chittard, the night that they filmed the final shot. When Jimmy Chitwood hit the shot. And I remember they did it at halftime because during our game at halftime, Chittard and Broad Ripple went to their locker rooms, and then the film crew set up, and then they filmed the final shot. But it's kind of weird during the game because they'd shoot like crowd scenes where they'd have everybody yell or scream, and it'd be during our game during a timeout or something. It's like, wow. It's kind of weird, but it was a neat experience to be there during Hoosiers.
Coach, they want you to be the soccer coach. You were. What did you think about that, or did you think,
Oh yeah,
this is an extra $300 or $400, or what did you think about that?
Well, here's how that worked out. I coached cross country at Broad Ripple. I coached basketball. I coached baseball, and Mr. Glenn called me during the summer one summer and said, "Hey, Coach," he goes, "we're going to start a soccer team here. How about you coaching it?" I didn't know that much about soccer. I thought, well, sure, I'll do it. So I took over the soccer team and started the team and read up, a lot of books on soccer. And it was actually kind of fun. We had a pretty good year. I remember I had one really good soccer player. I think it was Wes Priest.
Yes.
He actually played on a national championship team at IU, I believe, in soccer.
Yeah, in '88.
But he played at Broad Ripple when it first started, and then after a couple of years, his father took over coaching. But that's how the soccer program got started at Broad Ripple. So I enjoyed it.
So what is interesting is just before I started Broad Ripple High School, my family all went to Washington High School, and they took me to a football game one late August evening, and of course Broad Ripple was playing Washington, and that's where I met you, and I met Coach Siegel before I even got to Broad Ripple. So that's what led me to actually play soccer and go out for soccer. But I have a story that I don't know if you know, but I'd like to share it with you about a game that we were having in soccer.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember Paul Fry.
Yeah.
Both Paul and I had gone to school since second grade, and I remember we were playing somebody, and I never got in. I was like, I'm just goofing off over on the sidelines, and there's I think Doug Jones played. I think there was just so many. Jeff Feltner played. I think there were just so many, better soccer players, but I don't know if we were getting beat or what it was, but I was goofing off on the sidelines with Paul, and all of a sudden I hear Billy, and I'm like, okay, who's who? I had to look someplace else because I knew it wasn't down at the coach's end, and it said Billy, and I'm like, yeah, get in there. And I just remember being in there and just being lost, but I'm glad I did take that opportunity to play soccer, and then of course get to know you, and spent years with you there at Broad Ripple. So, what was it like to get the head baseball coaching job?
That was really cool. I coached the JV. Like I said, I started at Addicts, assistant coach, and then when I got to Broad Ripple, I was the JV coach for a while. John Tremaine was the head coach for many years, and then let's see, how was that? Gosh, I think he became athletic director, and so I took over the head baseball job at Broad Ripple, and that was really cool. We had some good teams. I remember one memory that really sticks out in my mind. I think it was your senior year. Remember Terry Bryant? Remember Terry?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Mason, his brother?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think this has ever been done before. Probably never has been ever. But we beat Cathedral on I think it was a Thursday night. It played at Riverside Park. The next night, we played Chittard at Chittard and beat Chittard. Terry Bryant pitched. And that's something to beat Cathedral and Chittard back to back. Especially, IPS was not really known for baseball back then. But we had some pretty good teams and played some pretty good baseball back then.
Yeah, I think that one of those years you went 12-12. We went to the sectional finals. I mean, we came up against Ritter, but that was that was pretty good record for. And you got to remember too. I think that was the best record at Broad Ripple at the time. And you got to remember Frank Baird, who was in the Indiana Baseball Hall of Fame and Basketball and Football Hall of Fame, had coached there, so that was a pretty good accomplishment. Right,
you're right. Yeah, that was Frank Baird was good guy, good coach. Well, that was quite an accomplishment.
I wonder where that baseball went, because that baseball was in one of the trophy cases.
Oh, I know. That's I don't know what happened to all that stuff. Hopefully they put it in storage or somewhere. But I know the state championship basketball trophy from 1980. I believe they donated that to the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame in Newcastle.
Really?
When you go in, I think it's in there. I think I saw it in there. And then I think they got another one put in the trophy case at Broad Ripple.
Have you ever been to the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame?
Yes, I've been there several times.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Now, my next question is once I let everybody know that you were going to be on the program, the outpouring of gratitude toward you and what you've done in your career, and the outpouring of just comments and positive vibes was just amazing. But I know we don't want to talk about this, but how much in your coaching career is politics involved?
Well, there's, that's something you have to deal with, definitely. And it's just part of the game. I mean, it's sad that it comes to that sometimes, but it happens. It happened to me on a couple of occasions in my career. But you can't get sour, you can't give up. You just got to keep going on. And I always tried to teach that to my athletes, that whatever you face, never give up. Just keep going, and things will turn out right for you.
So what leads you to leaving Broad Ripple?
Well, I as you know, I was the assistant coach with Coach Smith, and he left Broad Ripple to get into politics. And but so he did that a few years, and the timing for me was terrible. Right before he left, they closed Marshall High School and Addix High School, and the rule at the time in IPS was, if your high school is closed and you're a head coach in basketball, you get the first job that becomes available. Wow. So here's, I'm thinking, I'm going to be the coach. And here they closed the two schools. So they asked, I think it was Larry Humes at Addix first, if he wanted to coach Broad Ripple. And at the time, he declined it. He accepted a position at the University of Indianapolis as a coach. And then they offered it to the Marshall coach, who was Roger Schroeder at the time. And he accepted it. So he was there for 3 years, and I was his assistant. And you know the story on Roger. He actually played on Milan in the 1954 state championship year. And so he had some interesting stories about that we talked about. But then the second round, timing again, I think I had a record like 84-6 or something like that at JV basketball in 4 years at Broad Ripple. Mm-hmm. And so the first time I thought, well, I'll coach with Coach Schroeder for 3 years. And then Coach Schroeder left, and there was a change in principals at the time, same year. And the new principal brought in the JV coach from Tech, and he was awarded the Broad Ripple job. So that, really was hard to swallow, because I was, really looking forward to being the head coach at Broad Ripple, but it didn't work out. So I just set my sights on my next goals, and I actually, for one day, I was hired at Washington High School.
Really?
And yeah, Joe Pearson was the coach at the time. And I called Joe. I said, hey, I'm thinking about leaving Ripple. And he said, hey, I need an assistant coach. You want to coach with me? I said, okay, sure. So I went over to Washington during the summer and met the principal, and she showed me around, showed me my classroom, my health classroom, and the gym. And that same afternoon, I got home, and I had a message from Warren Central High School, and they offered me a position. So, I hated to do that. I called Joe Pearson back up and said, hey, I've got this other offer. I think I'm going to take it. And, at the time, it was like a pretty good leap financially, too, between IPS and the township schools. So I went ahead and took that. And then I, was the assistant coach at Warren Central for 7 years. And then I was the head baseball coach at Warren Central. And so that's how I got to Warren. And that's where I retired from after 44 years total teaching and coaching. Actually, the last 15 years, I was, I don't know if you knew this, but I was coached at Indianapolis Lutheran High School.
I saw that.
On the southeast side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the assistant baseball coach and basketball coach. And recently, up till last year, I was still helping out a little bit with stats and things like that, just to keep involved. And then the pandemic hit, so it kind of canceled everything out. So that's kind of how I ended up at Warren Central. After all the years, at Ripple. And
how different was it How different was life as a coach or a teacher outside of the Indianapolis public school system?
It was a little different. I don't know. Teaching to me was teaching. You're teaching kids. I don't care where you're at. You're teaching kids to be positive and do the right thing. And so I looked at it that way. Of course, back then, IPS was kind of behind facility-wise. The township schools had nicer facilities at the time. When I left Broad Ripple, they had the new gym, which was very nice. But in the old days, you remember the old gym at Broad Ripple? That was quite a place.
Oh yeah.
To play, and I think it's a library now. But Warren was big school, big township, and nice facilities and things like that. So in that sense, it was nice to move into that situation.
Did you have success with the baseball program?
Yes, we did. We actually, 2001, 2004, we were in the final game of the Marion County Championship, which is tough with all the Marion County schools. We played at Victor Field downtown, and we played Lawrence Central both years. And 2001, we lost 1-0, and it was a tough game. And then we played LC again in 2004. I think we lost 8-3 or something like that. But that was quite an experience getting to play down there at Victor Field under the lights. And so that was cool.
Yeah, it's very neat. I remember a lot of our baseball games that we'd play at Riverside. My grandpa would pick me up from the games, and we'd go down to Busch Stadium and play and watch, AAA baseball. So it's a beautiful it's a beautiful and historic stadium.
It really is. Yeah, very nice stadium. Have you been by the old? I've
actually been by the old, and I've seen where they've made it into apartments, and of course I've seen a couple of baseball games at Victory Field too. It's kind of neat the way they did the old one.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I drove back there one day, and the field is still there. It's not as nice. Obviously, it's nice. There's weeds and things, but they kind of left the front of the facade so from the outside it kind of looks the same, but obviously it's a lot different now. People living there.
Did you go to Coach Smith? Did you go to Coach Smith's memorial?
Yes, I did. It was at Broad Ripple High School, and that was really a nice turnout. There were a lot of former players there, and Coach Smith's wife called me and asked me if I would speak at the memorial. So that was an honor. George Hill spoke, and Mike Woodson, and I spoke about my experiences with Coach Smith. And it was really a very nice event. A lot of people there. It was in the auditorium at Broad Ripple.
We also lost Coach Cooley in the past year too, haven't we?
I know. I saw that. Yeah, Coach Cooley. Yeah. So yeah, it's. I knew he had been ill for a while, but it was sad to lose him.
He was a character.
Yeah, he was. Well, another thing pops in my mind. I don't think it's ever been done since then or ever.
Oh yeah.
In 1986, your senior year.
Yeah.
We won the varsity city tournament, the JV city tournament, and the freshman city tournament.
Yep.
All three levels. So I don't think that's ever been done before in 1 year.
When you coached at Broad Ripple, did you have to calm Coach Smith down? Did he get ejected from any games where you or the other, that you had to end up coaching the rest of the game?
Yes, a couple times.
Did you roll out the picket fence?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was, he could get pretty heated at times, and a couple times he did get tossed, and I was kind of Mr. Ring at times, said, "Tom, he's watching now. If he gets going too much, get out there and get him." So it was funny. And Coach Clark, he was there too. He help out Coach if he'd get tossed. But it, it was a lot of good memories there from Broad Ripple. Yeah.
I remember Coach smoked on and off, and there'd be times where he'd quit smoking, and all of a sudden he'd be like, "Hey, go get my suit jacket. I need my cigarettes."
Yeah. Oh, I know. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. He'd always. I think he quit 100 times, but he'd start up again. But yeah, that was something.
So are you retired? Or are you what do you do now?
Yeah, I retired from 44 years of teaching, coaching. Just kind of enjoying myself now. It's nice to spend time with my wife, Carolyn. We got married in 1976 when I first started teaching. And so it's nice to spend time with her. And we have a dog and 3 cats. I get a lot of walks in with our dog, Edith. So she keeps me busy. But it's kind of nice, just relaxing. And it's kind of, with this pandemic, though, I was working out 4 days a week at LA Fitness. And, then the pandemic hit and they closed the place. So I think it's open now partially, but I'm not real thrilled about going back in there right now into a gym with people sweating and jumping around. So kind of have to wait on that. So I'm kind of working out on my own here at home.
Now the coolest thing about Coach Smith and you was, once again, you probably don't know the story. I'd be walking to school because I had to walk, and either the Camaro would give me a ride into the rest of the way to school, or the Corvette would give me a ride to the rest of the way into school. So
yeah, I remember that.
Do you still do sports cars?
Yeah, I've kind of gone the other way into the classic car.
Really?
I actually, it's been 7-8 years ago, I actually purchased a car to help transport my mom and dad around because they later in years got using wheelchairs. And so I bought a 1979 Cadillac 4-door sedan.
Oh.
And I was at a Ball State football game one Saturday, and I saw this beautiful blue Cadillac sitting with a for sale sign on it. So I called when I got home, and the guy said, "Yeah, my father-in-law, he's up in his age 82, and said he wants to sell it." So I said, "Well, how much you want for it?" "Oh, $4,000." $4,000. That was a steal. The car actually had, when I bought it, 65,000 original miles. And the same body, paint, everything was perfect. So he drove it down here from Muncie and met me at Southern Plaza on the south side. And I test drove it and wrote him a check for $4,000, and I had it ever since. So I keep it in a storage garage over here by our house. But back in '78, I think I had that Camaro, and Coach Smith was always into the Corvettes. And I think he even had a Jaguar. Remember that? For a couple of years. Yes, but it's really great to reminisce and go over the old memories of coaching. And I always appreciated you there at Broad Ripple because you were right on. You were worked hard and could always rely on you to get the job done. And
oh, I was I was a whiny pain in the ass. You know that.
Oh, no, you weren't.
Yeah. Hey,
looking.
Go ahead.
I was looking at the '86 picture there. When we were ranked number 1, undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
The other manager at the time, was that Otto?
Yeah, Eric Otto.
Eric Otto. I wonder what happened to him.
Well, he's whatever he's doing. I follow him on social media. We're friends on Facebook, and he's always doing something. It looks like he's done well. I mean, everybody. Let's see. Walter Shellman is on Facebook doing well. I think he actually worked for the Vice President Dick Cheney's detail when George Bush was president.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Jerome Clark passed away. That was Rodney's son, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
No, I think he was related.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Dodd. You remember Big Michael Dodd?
Yeah.
His
Michael
daughter
Dodd.
just won a state championship, I think, with either Warren or Lawrence North.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
Thomas is on Facebook. Kevin Bonds is on Facebook. Patrick
Yeah.
Jelks is on Facebook. All the cheerleaders are on
Kevin?
Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Lead, you're talking
Oh
to him.
my gosh, that guy!
He's a big movie guy, or a big music guy, isn't he?
He's huge.
Yeah.
He's given me a couple shout outs about some stuff, but he's actually been wanting to do a movie about the '80 championship season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I told him,
Wow,
I said,
that'd
man, if you want to do something like that, man, I'll be more than glad to help. So, but he's a huge music mongrel. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I looked him up online, man. He's really up there.
You know what was funny was I have a friend of mine whose father-in-law is Howard Cott. You remember him from Tech?
Oh, yeah, Hard Cat.
I can't believe he's still alive.
I know. He's got to be
90? Yeah.
90, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was there at Tech for years.
A great guy, though.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
I always remember about it, Howard. Every game, if we played Tech or at the sectional, regional, semi-state, whatever, he would come by the bench and hand me a stick of gum. And that every game, that's how I remember Howard. He was a great guy, though.
Yeah. But everybody has done pretty well. I even see the guys from your '80 state championship team, Jerry Snyder, David Christopher. Then they'll share pictures of Big Jeff Robinson and Silk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's.
I saw Kevin Tracy not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talked to him, so he's doing good.
Yeah.
But.
It's a family. It's a family. You know that.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a family.
Yeah.
You're right. It is.
Especially during that 78 to 89 run, there's just it is. It's just a big family, and most of them are doing well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shoot, I think Terry Bryant is in. He's a member of the Drug Enforcement Agency.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think Mason was in the police. Was a police officer, wasn't he?
I actually saw Mason about 10 years ago here in Houston, but both of them are doing really well too. So it's nice to, especially from your perspective, I would think that you see that your work didn't go wrong. Everybody being successful.
Right.
So
yeah, that's really I really enjoy seeing everybody be successful. And
yeah,
it was really cool last year. I got a call. Do you remember Juan Alexander?
Yep.
And Vince Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
They called me and said, "Hey, Coach, we just want to thank you and pay you back for all that you did for us. And we want to take you and your wife out to dinner." So he said, "You name the place, we'll go." So I said, "Oh, that's cool." We met at Bravo Italian restaurant, and we had a great time. They took us out for dinner, and we talked, and it was really cool. They gave me a Broad Ripple T-shirt. So you're right. It's a big family there at Ripple.
Yeah. It was neat. A few years ago here, I went down and I got this, before Coach Smith passed away, I got to at least have one last conversation with him when he was working with the Knicks, when he came down here to play the Houston Rockets. So that was nice to do. It was a really surprise of him passing, though, on a simple procedure. It was really a shock.
Yeah, I know. That was a shock for sure. Yeah.
Well, Coach, we could talk probably another hour. I don't know if.
I know. We could. Well, I really enjoyed this, Billy, and I appreciate you having me on, and do it again sometime and reminisce some more.